DJ PK, the countdown to college football is on. We're basically 8 weeks away. Riley Jensen joins us now. Comes on every week during the football season to talk football. Riley, good morning.
What's going on, you sorry dudes?
Well, normally this would be a little early to bring you on, but it turns out we're going to have a BYU quarterback battle. And the first thing I notice about this quarterback battle is, why do we get all worked up about recruiting? There's a transfer from Western Michigan, a transfer from Utah State, and a transfer from Stanford. Recruiting. Who cares, Riley? Overrated. Not completely, obviously, but you get the point.
So I think this whole scenario is, well, tragic in a lot of ways. I'm sorry that anything happened. I was looking forward to what Jake Retzlaff could do. I know some people are willing to move on, but I don't think that you can discount the experience that he has now at this point, and that makes it a little bit difficult. McKay Hillstead has some experience at Utah State. He's clearly a fantastic athlete. He's clearly someone who can spin the ball really, really well and knows where to go with the ball. He fits the mold of what I think A-Rod likes at quarterback, because an athletic quarterback can bail you out sometimes of a bad play call or just a bad situation. My worry about him is he hasn't been able to make it through a college season, and I'm not being critical of him because I didn't make it through my Division I season, right? But it's hard, right? It's hard to know. He's going to have to make some decisions that play into the longevity of him making it through a season if he becomes the quarterback. I know this Hank Bachmeier kid.
Bear. Hank is the older brother. Don't make that mistake ever again.
Sorry. Sorry. Bear. Yeah, can you believe I made that mistake? I mean, nobody calls me Riley Nelson, and nobody calls Riley Nelson Riley Jensen.
Well, we're laughing about it because I already made it.
Yeah. So Bear, from everything that I'm hearing, this is a quarterback that BYU really wanted when he went to Stanford. This is a kid that they really like, not just as an athletic and really good quarterback, but as someone that's a leader, as someone that's down to earth, as someone that is like willing to learn and get better. And so I know that BYU has been really excited about the fact that Bear's going to be there. So I think this just turns into a battle of, you got to go with the guy that not only is a really good football player, but makes the players around him better. And you do that, you know, people always say that, but they don't explain what that means. A way that you make a receiver better is on a 5-yard out, you put it on his face mask instead of stretching him out a little bit or putting it on his back hip, because then he can make a football move after he catches the ball. You make people better by helping them not to dwell too long on past mistakes. So there's leadership, there's accuracy, there's some different things as a quarterback that help you to make other people around you better. And from what I'm hearing about Bear Bachmeier, this is the type of person that he is. There's lots of people who love McKay Hillstead. I don't know him personally, but they like his moxie. And when he played at Utah State, he had a ton of moxie. He was an exciting quarterback, and then he was hurt. And so, to me, that's going to be the most important thing is he learned how to play quarterback at the Division I level and keep himself safe and out of harm's way. So I actually have learned a lot from you, DJ, on this one. You've always talked about how important a senior quarterback is, and I think that I'm not trying to depress BYU fans, but not having a returning starter with a lot of experience in the Big 12, it makes a difference this year, and there's going to be some growing pains and some learning pains that maybe you hadn't anticipated. So I feel bad about it. It's not what BYU fans had hoped for, but it makes a big difference when you have a returning starter. And as little as like And the reason why a returning starter is like you may have been, Retzlaff was an All-American at Riverside Community College. Then he came and played in the Big 12. But one of the things the Big 12 does, they play a lot of 3-5-3. It's a different defense, and he hadn't had a lot of experience with that, and I think he struggled with it in his first year and a half. Last year he was pretty dang good and got a lot better against that. So it's one of those things where that's where experience matters. It's like, okay, well, I just haven't had a lot of experience against this defense or that defense or against this type of scenario, and that's why it's a little bit troublesome to me. I'm feeling bad about the situation because from the coaching staff down to the players, down to the fans' investment, there's been a lot of excitement about this season.
I'm going to make a statement and then get to the question, so bear with me. I think recruiting now is more important than ever because of the transfer portal. They don't get Bachmeier without recruiting him heavily before, and that's where you develop relationships. Recruiting, when it doesn't matter that you don't get him now, because if you get him later, then what's the difference? And I think that's what they did. So they already have a very good relationship with Bachmeier because they recruited him. And so you need to recruit these kids more than ever because they can leave literally at any time and be eligible at your school the very next season. So and that's why you need to recruit.
The second round is speed dating.
Yeah.
So you don't really have time to build the relationship there.
Yeah, precisely. Yes, well said. Yeah, you don't. You have to do it before when the kid's a sophomore in high school, and you may not get him until 5 years later, but that's the way of the world. Now, with this idea of he has all sorts of credentials, right? If you want credentials, if that's important to you, he's got them. And there's no question about that. And they believe that he won the job at Stanford during his brief time there, which says something. And he has the intelligence because he got admitted to Stanford and that he'd be able to pick up the system. And I've heard some people say, oh, well, let's do like they did with Zach Wilson. Bring him along. But the problem with that is they don't play an independent schedule to when you get to mid-October. It's virtually a bunch of patsies the rest of the way, and then you get Western Michigan in the bowl game. And nothing against them, but obviously that's not the top-level competition that you're going to face in the Big 12. And so my line of thinking is if it's Hillstead or Bourget, those two, they have to be conclusive. It's like the old boxing analogy in which they would say that the challenger has to really, really beat the incumbent because the incumbent is going to get the benefit of the doubt from the judges. And so you got to basically knock him out. And so I think that's where I'm going with this, because if it's close, why not play Bachmeier early? Because the early games, the first 3 games, stand to reason they would be your 3 easiest games of the season. And so if you think that Bachmeier is close to ready, let him have those 3 games so he's ready to go. So that's my question as far as you responding to my line of thinking.
So a lot to unpack there, and I think there's so many parts where you're right on. Number one, even before the transfer portal, I remember Matt Wells. I was sitting at the all-poly camp with him, and he was talking to a big-time player who had signed with USC, and you would have thought that they were best friends. This kid had signed at USC. They were having this interaction that was unbelievable, and I talked to Matt, and I'm like, man, you guys have a great relationship. And he's like, yeah, you never know.
Yeah.
Right? And that was happening before NIL. It's happening even more now. So this whole recruiting of Bear Bachmeier, you're right. There's even a volleyball coach and a couple of Division I coaches in other sports that I talk to that when they're recruiting in the portal, they're not looking for people that they don't know. They're looking for people that they already recruited because they already have a relationship. They already know what their personality is like. Because you're right, there's not as much time in that second round. Like you said, it's speed dating, right? And so there's a lot of that going on. And then as far as like the incumbent and the heavyweight champion of the world, all that kind of stuff, you're spot on. When I was coaching college football, the thought was the person who is the upperclassman has to leave no doubt that he's the quarterback, or the one that's been there longer has to leave no doubt that he's quarterback. Because if he's even, it's more healthy for your program to start the younger guy. And so why wouldn't you, if it's even, this is going to go to Bear Bachmeier. But that doesn't mean that it's going to be. I mean, there's going to be a competition, and there's going to be guys. So the onus and, the difficulty of starting right now, there's going to be more pressure on Hillstead, in my opinion, than there is on Bear Bachmeier, because he's got to leave no doubt that he's the guy as the upperclassman, as the person that's been there, and that kind of stuff, because it's more healthy for your program to start a younger guy if it's even. So I totally agree with what you said there, and I don't think there's a coach in the country that I've talked to that doesn't believe that way or think that way.
Given how prevalent injuries are in college football, I think we should be intrigued with who's number 2. Who wins that second job? We know that they get some practice time, not much, but we know the third person is going to be off running a scout team or standing over on the side with a baseball cap. So can you rule anyone out? Because if you're second, you got to stay prepared because you know you're one snap away. And especially if Hillstead ends up being the starter, and we all have questions about his ability to endure the pounding.
Yeah, the one thing that I don't have that I probably should have a little bit more information on, I haven't asked much about the Western Michigan transfer, right? I do think that Bear Bachmeier and McKay Hillstead have all the tools to be able to be in the top 2. I'd be, in some ways, just the way people have talked about them, I'd be surprised if both of them aren't in the top 2. But what I would say is when you're going to a major Division I school now, if you're in the top 2, you better be playing and you better be preparing like you're the starter if you're the second-string quarterback. And it's a very hard place to be because it's not even like a relief pitcher. A relief pitcher, like, you're going to get in eventually here. It's a little bit shorter notice, but a Division I quarterback who's second string does not play. You just don't play unless it's a horrendous performance or an injury. But you have to prepare yourself as if you're the starter, and that's I think that's easier for us as older adults now to say, well, yeah, I mean, that's what you got to do. But as an 18-year-old and your feelings are a little bit hurt that you're the second-string quarterback and you felt like you should have been the first-string quarterback, it's a little bit harder to prepare like you're the starter. And so it takes a special guy and a mature individual to be the second-string quarterback and prepare the way that you need to as a second-string quarterback. I can't tell you how many times second-string quarterbacks have gone into the game and they're just completely unprepared because they didn't prepare as if they were going to play.
You had Retzlaff there for all of last year. You had him for spring ball, and A-Rod has said multiple times and publicly he was looking to increase the percentage of completion up to 75, and they're excited and all this stuff. So you built the offense around him, and then all the other players at the other positions, they knew what the offense is going to be. Well, now he's gone. What do they do as far as offensive formation, game plan, just the system that they have? Do you keep it the same? Do you change it versus whoever the guy is? Because now you're up against it in a time crunch here. You got the summer where those kids can work out, and then you basically got 3 weeks. I guess you can say you got 4 because you should be able to handle Portland State no matter what you do. But I'm just wondering how does A-Rod deal with the offensive system with new people?
So these are great questions. Every offense, every offense has its core principles of like how you're going to run it and why you're going to run it. Now, you might have a guy that can run the ball a little bit better than another quarterback, or a guy that can throw it a little bit better. And what you do is within the framework of your offense is you highlight what your players can do. The good thing about A-Rod's situation right now is he kind of knows who some of his other players are. And so part of the offense that has been built is based on who these other players are. Now, he's going to have to taper the offense, or he's going to have to structure the offense a little bit around who's going to be the starter. But the problem is you're trying to find who the starter is right now.
Yeah.
So what I would lean towards if I were Aaron is, we got these players that can do this, this, and this. Which one of my quarterbacks can step in and get the ball to these players in these situations and this framework that we've already kind of set up a little bit, and then worry about, okay, well, McKay Hillstead's the quarterback. We can run him on some RPOs. He makes great reads, and he can make some great plays with his feet. But if I run him too much, we're going to get him hurt. So maybe we're just going to have a 3 to 5 play package that we run in certain third down scenarios where we're having him run on purpose. Because if you run a quarterback like McKay Hillstead more than 10 times a game, he's going to get hurt. Because you can have 3 to 5 planned runs for him, but he's going to have 3 to 5 runs that he just makes within playing football. And if you run him more than 10 times a game, he will get hurt. So he's the type of guy where you got to be a little bit careful about how you do that. Bachmeier's a big, strong kid. I don't know how well he runs the ball, but if he can, he might be somebody that you can run the ball a little bit more with. And so that was a long-winded answer as to, yes, you have to make some changes, but you don't have to make as many as you think. And then once you know who the starter is, you can kind of shape that offense a little bit more around his talents as you see what he can do and what you trust him to do. Really, is what it is.
Going through all these quarterbacks, the one thing I can't see, and I think you just kind of touched on this with Bachmeier, I can't believe he's going to end up number 3. I don't know how all this is going to shake out. There's 3 guys for 3 spots, so like there's 9 options and all that. The one thing I don't think is going to happen is Bachmeier's not going to end up 3rd. Anything else could happen.
Well, so the other delicate thing about this whole thing, Ryan, is you have a high-profile recruit that's coming in that's already transferred once.
Yeah.
I mean, the landscape of college football coaching is completely different than when I played.
Yep.
You have to constantly recruit players.
Including your own that are on your roster right now, which is why PK said.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. And if he's not second string, you better believe there's not happiness on that one. So I and you're talking about the quarterback position, and look, I know we're all prima donnas and we're all hard to deal with. Right?
You are.
But
I agree.
Right. You know, that's what everyone says. So
We said you are. He was talking about me.
I'm pretty sure that, you know, if I were to go and have a conversation with Kyle, there might be, you know, a long warming up period because I was a former quarterback, right?
Oh, he would talk to you?
Well, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I mean, you'd have to peel back some layers here for a while before he would actually even, like, you know, kind of get down to the real Kyle Whittingham.
Just bring Spencer Fano with you. You'll be okay.
There's a natural distrust. I mean, I know who I would bring. It would be my old linebacker teammate, Cyrus Satoa-Fainga, who's like his right-hand man. And that's who I would bring to get in with Kyle. But even then, it would take a bit. He's like, Cyrus, you're bringing in a quarterback to hang out with me? Like, what's going on here? But we are a little bit – we're also an insecure bunch. Like, there's not a position where you worry more about being replaced than that one because – when you play, you play. When you don't play, you don't play. If you're the second string like linebacker, you're going to play. If you're the second string running back, you're going to play. Second string tight end, you're going to play. Second string quarterback, you're watching and your uniform's really, really clean. And so there's this attitude of like you're the man, and also this insecurity that happens with quarterbacks that is a delicate balance, and you have to recruit a quarterback. And when they're high-profile quarterbacks that have been told their whole life that they're the best player that you've ever seen, there's just a different way that they think about their playing time than other players.
All right, Riley, we'll leave it right there.
I miss you guys. Call me more often. Why you ghosting me? I mean, I'm willing to hang out. I'm willing. I'm ready and willing. Like, why are you treating me?
You got
like,
pneumonia last time.
friends?
What are you talking about?
Dude, how about I went to the hospital? I'm that guy that goes to the hospital now for it. I spent 2 days in the hospital. What's wrong with me?
And you still didn't want to come in the third day. I don't understand it.
I don't know what's going on with me, man. I gotta get it together.
Your number was called, man. Literally.
Well, I mean, you could have called me and asked me how I was doing. You're just like, okay, fine, I'll find someone else.
I did not. I said, I hope. I said, if you die, make sure somebody notifies me, and I'll show up. And nobody notified me, so I figured you were fine.
You and Kyle been hanging out too much. You were like, next man up, Jake. Next man up.
Literally, the show must go on.
I know. I felt it. I mean, I really did almost show up on that third day, but my doctor was like,
all right, well, now that you're healthy, you can talk to all your contacts, learn a little more about Bourget, and get back to us. And we'll talk to you again when camp gets rolling, okay?
I will. All right. Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot. The politics of college football demand that this is going to be a very close competition when everyone goes down to talk to A-Rod. And I thought what you said with 3 weeks and you corrected yourself to 4, I thought that was a beautiful side adjustment on your part. You read the blitzing linebacker and you thought, well, they can play 2 guys in that first game because they'll be markedly better and they will dominate many other spots on the field, so they can play 2 guys and convince at least 2 guys, hey, you're really close to the job. You got to keep working.
And by that time, the season's underway. You can't go anywhere.
And so, yeah, I don't know that you can convince 3 guys of that, but you can convince 2. So maybe one guy will just really outplay the other 2, so there'll be no point in the charade because everyone could just see it.
Right.
You can't really fool people.
No, not the kids.
We won't give anything up, but you know people who know people, and you're already hearing stuff from, people who are in the program to somebody to you.
Yeah.
Now, that's not firsthand information, but on the other hand, if you heard who it was and you heard who they told and why you know that person, you'd be like, well, that's not nothing either.
That's accurate.
That's not nothing.
They weren't lying to me. I know that. They weren't making it up.
Now, we'll see. They're going to be put in tougher situations, and we'll see how it shakes out.
We got a ways to go.
Right. And we'll also see how quickly someone who's brand new to the program can inhale all this information and make it happen on the practice field.
Right.
That hasn't been determined yet. That'll get started here next month. All right, DJ and PK, but would you agree the one thing that isn't going to happen?
I hadn't thought about it, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
Honestly, I hadn't thought about it,
Right.
but when you said it, I said, oh, yeah, I can see it.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. Tim Lacombe, top of the hour. The Jazz getting younger and younger. And some other NBA moves that, what do you think? We'll get to that with Tim. Stay with us.